back, everybody. It's two guys and a stack of comics back there. My name's Mike. That's Reed over there. Reed, how's it going?
Doing good, man. Just enjoying life. Always good sports season. Got baseball starting up, college basketball tournament, all kinds of good stuff. Always good to be reading some comics and going through. So all good.
It's been a really good week in comics. A really good couple of weeks, actually. Pretty good month. A solid month.
Yeah,
For
no, we've
comics this
had
week.
some really good months of comics to start 2024. It's been a good start.
Yeah, we wanted to talk a little bit today about a comment we had from one of our viewers who asked, "What if comics went into a manga type format where where most manga is like you
Like
know
a volume at a time, yeah, instead of
yeah,
singular.
it's a big chunk of then they have their different chapters, but like every month or two, sometimes it's 2 or 3 months before another one comes out, but you usually get like a big chunk of the story at a clip.
Yeah.
And I got this. My son's really into manga, and when I saw this, I didn't know that DC or Marvel did manga style books, but they do. So
Yeah.
they're out there with black and white interiors. It reads backwards, which is really weird for me. I can't get used to it. But they are trying something like that. But I think what the viewer had more in mind was like, what if you know, like right now you get a comic and it's yeah, 16 or ish pages of content,
And you're probably getting 20 pages of story at
20
most for
pages.
$4 or $5. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, what if they combined them all? Well, they do that, but in reverse. Like after 10 or 12 issues out, then they put out the little thin
Graphic
graphic
novel
novel
collections and
trade
yeah, I
paperback.
think the issue comics have right now. Um, they try some stuff. I know there's been some Deadpool mangas. I know Spider-Man's had one. Batman, I think the Joker and Superman have all had ones. And those are I'll be honest, that's not my style to read those. I think the problem we currently have is the singular issues, other than a few specific ones, you're paying a pretty penny for very little content. You're paying 20 pages and it's gone from it went what I remember DC a couple years ago drawing the line at 2.99, and then that line has gone to 3.99 and 4.99 real fast. And so I think what's happened is, the price of these books is so much. And what's weird is anime and manga stuff. The manga is it's 99. I think that volume you have there, that's like 90 pages.
Yeah,
It's like
and it's
$9.
$10.
10
You
bucks,
can
you're
see
getting
it.
90 pages. And yeah, it's not colored and things like that, but you're getting consistent art from the same artist throughout the entire thing. It's 9.99. You're probably getting about 5 comic books worth of material there. And I know the pages are smaller and things like that, but I think the pricing on comic books has made it to where manga is an alternative. And so I think there's a couple things manga does really well. And I myself, I will not pretend I'm a manga fan. I have tried. My son loves a few of them. I think like One Piece, My Hero Academia. I think there's one called Kaiju #8 that he reads.
Kaiju. Yep.
I don't remember there's one other one he reads all the time. It's not Dragon Ball, but it's one of these other ones. I think JoJo's or something like that. But a lot of them are it's very easy to track. It's one series. It's really easy. I always know which one he needs. He can text me the exact volume number. There's no like, well, is it this spin-off one or this spin-off one? Or is it, you don't have like, uncanny One Piece and then excellent One Piece and exceptional One Piece and then One Piece Force or something like that. Like it's very easy to find the thing you're looking for. And then every page is drawn by the same creative team. I think that's another huge piece of it in that for American comics, what's interesting, and this is, I hate when it sounds like we're complaining about the modern artist, but I just do wonder what the difference is, and that you can go back to some of these kind of old school runs of comics, kind of like in these omnibuses, and what's amazing is you go back and you find some stuff like that Jack Kirby was doing. Um, every panel is drawn by him, and like the first 60 issues of like 5 or 6 different Marvel books, and it's all Kirby, and you knew what it would look like every single month. I think the first 40 issues of Spider-Man or 36 are drawn by Steve Ditko. It was all in a row, came out in a timely manner. You look now, and I think one of the hardest things that we see in modern comics is they'll advertise a comic run, and it's a certain writer and a certain artist. You get excited, and then the artist is on the book for 2 issues. and then it's a fill-in artist. And so by the time you get to that graphic novel collection of the 6 issues, it's like, yeah, it's got like 3 artists here. And they don't even sometimes get them stylized the same, where you can have a guy who's doing very classic pencil work, and then the next guy's a little more computer generated looking one, and then the one after that's a little more anime inspired. And it's like, man, this is a 6-issue story that looks massively different, even though it's running through the same title. I think the other issue you kind of have with graphic novel collections of American comic books, where it's cool, you can get them like the 6, kind of like manga, and you do save a little bit of money. The spoilers of the volume are already out there, right? So if you wait for 6 issues of Batman to come out, unless you're just going to completely cut off all comic book media and not talk to anybody that's there, you already know what happened, and it's already probably 4 or 5 months old by the time you get the chance to read those.
So if this were to happen, let's take a case in point, because I would actually like, you know, I'm thinking that might be a good. Let's take my favorite character, Flash. Okay,
Mhm.
so they do 12 issues a year of Flash, and they get to do 12 issues a year. So are you saying like every 6 months you could buy a Flash collection? And it
Yeah.
was just wait till then, and then you've got half the year's story in one shot.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's something they could definitely explore. And that I think one of the things that I think has changed. Um, I used to love it when
Because
I was getting.
these manga people, they wait like 2 or 3 months for another,
No, I
right?
mean, I want to say for my son, when he reads, I'm surprised. I think it's surprising if there's 3 or 4, maybe 4 volumes a year at most is what you get for the average character. And I could be wrong. I'm not going to pretend I know the release schedule. But I think the thing is, comic books, what's interesting when I look at the comic books that I've really loved the last decade or so, there's only a few that are monthly comic books. There's only a few of them where it's like, oh, every month I pick up this one and that's the best one. There's a lot that I pick up every month. But the ones that I've really loved have been these ones that are kind of these DC offshoot ones, like DC Black Label, where they've got this great one right now, Batman Gargoyle of Gotham. It's been 2 issues so far. There's about a 2-month wait in between each one. I don't mind at all, because when I get it, one of the coolest things, I think it's Raphael Grampa's the guy doing that series. When I get it, every page is excellently drawn. It's 50, 60 pages of content. So it's like 3 issues worth of content in there, or maybe 48 pages. So it's 2 or 3 months of content in there. It's all exquisitely drawn. You look at it, it's one of those books where you just open it and you're like, man, you just take a second and you look at the panels. Like you read the story, but then you just kind of stop and look at the page. And I don't remember, outside of Conan with the work done by Della Torre, I don't remember the last time I had a monthly comic book that I've done that with. And so I think the thing is, if you could get quality up where you don't necessarily have to have the fill-in artists, I would not mind at all if it was like, hey, there's 6 Batman issues a year. They're 50 pages each. It takes a couple months for them to come out, but when you get it, it's excellent work. And I think it might actually help them with sales.
Do you think that the industry has been trained to look for that book every month? Do you think that they'd be a little bit nervous to say, well, you're not going to get Batman for 3 months? I think, okay, I think they could do it, say, like on a few select characters. Let's say they decide to do it with Flash.
Yeah.
We're going to put out 3 compilation volumes of Flash a year.
Hmm.
And they will be, 108 pages or whatever. And they could start out by taking like one of the Batman titles.
Yeah, I think you could trial it. I think the interesting thing though is there's 6 different Batman books coming out a month at least. I think the thing is, you could have where, hey, this month Batman releases. Next month, the compilation of Detective Comics issues. The
Yeah.
next, Batman's World Finest. And then the next month after that is Batman again. Like you could rotate it. I think that's the thing is, and you maybe not have to go 3 a month, but you could do 2 months or something like that. I just think the problem it runs into now, and I was looking at this the other day. I went into the store with my son, and he picked up 2 volumes of manga for $20. It was pretty thick. I mean, he had 100 pages of reading at least. I picked up 4 comic books. It was probably the volume of one of his manga things at most. His was $20. Mine was like 26. and he got double the quality or double the page count, and every single page was written and drawn by the same artist and writer. And it's like, and I'm looking at mine, and it's like one's an offshoot Batman title, the other's an offshoot Batman title. I think one was an issue of Captain America with a fill-in artist. The other was, I think, an issue of Amazing Spider-Man that had a fill-in artist and was a tie-in to an event. And like literally in the Spider-Man thing, there's like a panel where randomly Iron Fist and Shang-Chi show up, and they haven't been part of the story. And they're like, "Where have you guys been? If you want to see where they were, read issues 1 through 3." And it's like, okay,
I
so
hate that.
even in the pages that I'm getting cameos of characters who haven't been a part of this. And one of the pages in the book I'm reading is trying to advertise me to go read another adventure that had nothing to do with what I was reading. And so I think it's a model they might have to try. And that I think, one of the things that's interesting is like almost all the big characters I think you could trial with have so many books coming out per month anyway. But like the problem right now for most comics is, and DC has this interesting kind of thing they're doing now where there's some books are $3.99, most of them are $4.99. Like the single issue of Batman, Detective Comics, Superman, and Action Comics. So probably their four most important books are all $4.99. And the thing that I get so mad at with buying those is I actually really like the storylines happening in each one of those four books. The problem is I'm paying an extra buck per book for an 8-page backup story drawn by a different writer and written by a different writer and drawn by a different artist that I could just give a rip about. I'm like, I don't care whatever about you're charging me an extra buck to get me a comic I would never buy. And by the end of the month, I'm paying for an extra book because each one of the ones that I'm reading has a backup story that's charging me $1. And so it's one of those things where it's like, man, once I'm paying $5 a book, and then I'm looking at manga and it's $9.99 and you get this, and then I'm not even getting consistency. I think that's the other thing is there's a lot of great artists still that work, but like, one of my favorite ones, Jorge Jimenez does art for Batman. The issues he's done, oh my gosh, they're so well drawn. But then you go to kind of the next issue after that, and it's just so poorly done. And it's just like, it's not the same. It's not even poorly done. It's just the art's not the same. It's not the same quality. And so I do wonder if like that model might work a little bit better.
I could see it. And the thing about it is they kind of already do this in reverse, but it might be a money saver for the company. Like they could save, publishing, four of these,
Mhm.
and just at the end of the run, just put them in, perfect bound format and say, here you go. Here's your,
What I
volume
think people are
one
gonna go,
of.
well, that's kind of the graphic novels that already get released. I think the problem is it's because you have people who trade weight now too. I think if you just release that as that's just the format instead
Yeah,
of single issues, and we see some that are. I'll try to pull one here real quick. It's kind of bound like that, but like that Gargoyle of Gotham one. Let me see if I have that one here. It's bound in like it's in a singular comic size. It fits with your other comics because I don't think they should go to the manga size
no, I
one.
don't either.
I don't think you have to go the magazine format. I think you could
No.
just go with, hey, standard comic size, standard comic pages. It's just, hey, 3 months of material inside of one book. And it just comes out quarterly or bi-monthly instead of, every other month or every month.
I'm trying to think if, they could wrap their heads around to do it that way. I think they'd have to do it as a slow transition. They would have to try out a few titles first, but I think it could work, especially if they kept the consistency, and it might take a little bit of the pressure off of them having to, put out a book every month. And it might be a little more cost effective to skip, the single issue part of the printing and just go straight to the graphic novel format and give us a chunk at a time. I think, actually, I would like that as a reader, because I would get more story at one sitting.
Yeah. No, and they do this with some of these. I mean, like, I think this Batman, let me grab this real quick here. This Batman that I have, Batman First Night, it's about 40, 50 pages. It's bound. Now, this is magazine format, but they could have very easily published it
Yeah.
in a regular one. Cool thing I loved with this, it was $6.99, but like I read it, I didn't feel ripped off at all. Because I'm like, you know what? It was, I believe it's 48 to 50 pages of content. It's well drawn, it's well written. What I love about like a series like this, I know it's going to be the same writer and the same artist for all 3 issues. And so I don't care that it's going to take 2 months between issue, because it's like, you know what? I'm going to get the quality that I wanted to. And that's, I think, the hardest part that comics do right now is when the comic is advertised to you, it is a certain writer and a certain artist. And then when you buy the issues, it's like, well, that was the first 3 issues, or that was the first 2 issues. The actual run is going to be a different artist. And I think that's the hard part of it is like, I think they're doing this on like the Flash. You and I both read the main Flash title. Me and you, I haven't loved this first story arc of the new Flash, but one of the highlights for me has been Mike Diodato Jr. doing the art. The art has been fantastic. I think he's done after the first 6 issues, and I think you have a fill-in artist coming in for the issues after that.
No,
And
don't tell
nothing
me that.
against the fill-in artist. I'm sure they're going to do the best they can. But again, what got me excited to buy that comic and was like, man, I'm looking forward to it was the art. Now you're like, hey, yeah, the art's not going to be the same for 4 or 5 months. And I know sometimes the artists have different schedules and different things like that. But it's one of the things is I'd rather see Flash take a 3-month break to give Diodato time, and then he can draw the next few issues. As opposed to, especially because sometimes you get artists who are very unique, have a different kind of art styling where it's like there's no one in the industry who really draws like that or draws close to that. And so the hard part is you'll get some of these graphic novel collections sometimes, and it's like first 3 issues look very grounded and gritty and visceral, and it's really cool. And then the next is more like a manga style art, and it's like it's nothing wrong with the manga style art. It's nothing against that artist. It just doesn't tonally fit with what you just showed me for the first 3 issues. And so it kind of completely breaks that immersion of the story.
Yeah, it really does. I don't know. I think it's something they could try. I mean, they're trying bold things right now, and you
Well,
know,
I think the other piece where it would help, and you and I have to probably being a dead horse on this, but I think they got to pare the lines down, and I think this would help them because I think the thing is, if you had every month where hey, you could probably do 20 titles then, and just have where hey, this month 15 of them are coming out, next month the other 15, but you get and that could really build the anticipation for those books. In terms of, I think that's the other part of the comic content that kind of at times I used to be really excited when I was knowing I was going to get 2 issues a month of my favorite series.
mhm.
Now because it's so expensive, it's like Wolverine's doing this series right now, and I really enjoy the event, but like it's 2 issues a month, and each issue is like $4.99, and I'm like, look, man, that's $10 a month on Wolverine. I like Wolverine; he's my favorite character, but what it always means is when they start doing the 2 month, it's like okay, one of the characters I don't read as much, that book I'm not going to buy anymore because I have a certain select amount of budget for comics each month. And it's like, look, man, if you're gonna do Batman twice a month and Wolverine twice a month, I'm not gonna drop those, but that means I'll stop buying, you know, Silver Surfer, or I'll stop buying Captain America or Thor or whatever. And I think that's got to be the case for some of these folks. And that, like, with Spider-Man releasing as often as it does, like, I know if Batman went down to 2 titles, I'd pick up 4 other books. But Batman
Yeah,
had like 7 a month, so it's like, yeah, I can't. Much as I like Green Lantern, I'm not going to drop a Batman book. It's like I like Green Lantern, but man, Batman keeps having 6 titles, so I'm not gonna pick up Green Lantern. And I know there's gotta be people where that's happening, where it's
yeah.
like, if you love the X-Men, I have a hard time believing you buy anything other than X-Men, because with as many X-Men books as come out, it's like I don't know how, unless you just maybe you have more just funds to play around with, but with everything else getting more expensive out there, there's part of me that doesn't even want to dip my toes into some of the X-Men stuff. And that, like, as much as I love those characters, I don't have $42 to invest every month in my comic book budget for the
Well,
9
maybe it could be
X-Men
something like
titles.
where it's a paradigm shift where, like you said, like 15 books a month will come out, and they'll have 60 pages each, right?
Yeah.
Um, and then next month the other 15 will come out, and then it'll be the rare instance when a floppy comes out, like it'll be a special issue, one shot,
Yeah.
and then everything else can continue in continuity in these larger chunks at a time. I know I would appreciate that as a reader.
Well, I think the thing you can keep the same issuing numbers. You're putting it in the more square bound kind of comic format. And there's times they release even just with the Staples one where it's just thicker stuff. There was a Batman issue that came out a few months ago, or I think a couple weeks ago, that I'll talk about when we do our comics of the month. It's Batman, and I think it was a crossover with this Italian character, Dylan Dog. It was like 88 pages. It was fantastic. It was well drawn and written throughout. It was like 80 something pages of story, and like DC only charged $5 for it. And it's like they can do this stuff. So I think it's one of the things where I just think maybe they need to look at the format that they're selling at. And that I would absolutely love if it would be like, hey, there's not 12 X-Men books, but once every month, an issue of X-Men is going to come out. It's 60 pages. It's got all the characters. It's all in there. And you can read the X-Men universe in a one-shot thing that's like 10, $12. I'd buy that every single month. But when it's
Oh,
like,
yeah.
hey, we've got, and then, you could do, hey, this month it's Uncanny X-Men. The next month it's X-Force. The next month it's X-Factor. And then we go back, right? I'd buy that every single month because I know I'm going to get it. Right now, the hardest thing is like, you read a book and it's like, man, I like this issue of X-Men, but it's missing half the characters that I like. They're in another book. That book's also $5. That book has an art team I'm not thrilled about. I'm missing half the story because they're like to be continued in Uncanny X-Men number 12 or whatever. And it's like, yeah, man, you just lose some readers that way. But I think it'd be interesting. And again, I always struggle. I can't really get into manga. The weirdest thing is I think they got to try it because manga has absolutely taken over. I mean,
It's
that's the
crushing it.
weirdest thing for me as a comic book fan is everywhere I go now, comic book stores. I'd say more of the store is manga than is comics at this point at almost every single one that I go to.
The
Um,
shelves are filled with them.
Barnes and Noble, one of my favorite places to go. There used to be a huge graphic novel selection. Now
Now
it's
it's down to like
the,
one shelf, and it's a
it's like
short shelf.
the short shelf on the back side of the four-wall manga section. And
Yeah.
it's like, yeah, we got a few back there. They don't sell comic books in single issue at Barnes and Noble anymore. They used to. They always used to have 10 or 12 kind of singular issues up there. They don't.
Spider-Man, Superman.
Well,
Yep.
you go to Walmart, you go to Target, you go to the grocery store, right there with the novels, they have manga. And it's like, man, it's
It
taken
sells.
over. It sells. And like, as much as I can't get into the stories, I completely get it. Like when my kid buys this One Piece thing, I think he's got like 100 something volumes of it. But the coolest thing for that is like, I flip it open, it's the same guy drawing every issue. It's the
Yep.
same guy on the like, what you're getting. And that's one of the saddest things for me with comics is I love me and you always talk about reading these facsimile issues and going back. One of the coolest things is like when I buy Mighty Marvel Masterworks or one of these things coming out, it's so cool just to see like, hey, it's 10 issues, it's all Kirby. And every issue looks the same. It's so cool, or it's Ditko, or whoever it
Yeah.
may be on the pencils, Neil Adams. It's just really cool to see it. And you're like, man, it's so cool to see the consistency. And modern comics is missing that. But let us know what you guys think below. Do you think going to a more manga style format, not in terms of the size or anything like that, but just if they released it in larger chunks, maybe a more period kind of the time where say three or four periods a month they send these things out. Do you think that'd work? Do you think it'd bring some of the excitement back to it? Again, we'll never pretend to be experts on that stuff. It may be that DC and Marvel, and maybe we're missing something. Maybe DC and Marvel have to release it the way that they do in order to keep the lights on. But it would be interesting to see them try. But let us know what you think below. As always, we appreciate you watching, and we will catch you in our next video.
Thanks, everybody.